are offered money to stay awake as long as possible. For every day you stay awake, you get 10,000. What do you do to prepare? And how much money do you think you can make? Story 1. 10,000 is such a small amount for the downsides here. Anything after 3 days of wakefulness can cause permanent damage to the brain. That being said, I'd stay up for 48 hours and collect my 20K. Story 2. I don't think many people could even do 2 days. Maybe you could stretch to 3 days with energy drinks, but I think that would be the limit for a lot of folks. Story 3. I'll just do 24 hours for 10K. Wouldn't do much to prep, probably Friday into Saturday. Go to work on a Friday, get home, have dinner, drink Red Bull, play video games until 6 a.m., 24 hours sorted. Story 4. 2 and through. I've pulled in excess of 60 hours one time, combination of new infant, grad school papers, and an audit to prepare for at work, worsened by a new Adderall prescription to see if extended release would help me stay on task during long days. What it did was make it near impossible to go to sleep for 2 straight nights before I flushed them. The result, my work all got done, and then I spent a long night in Call of Duty getting harassed by the shadow people on the couch with me that took too long to determine were actually hallucinations. Day 3. I went to work and class, somehow came home, laid on the floor by the front door, and fell asleep. My wife found me snoring when she came home with the kids later and made me move. I might have eaten, might not have, but I do know I didn't get up the next day until close to noon, so 2 days max. I'm perfectly fine with not seeing the shadow people again. Story 5. I've been going to sleep by 9:30 p.m. for the last 3 days. I haven't gone to sleep before 12 a.m. 1 to 2 a.m. on average in the past year. If I ditched my routine of evening walk, shower, face-mouth routine, magnesium, spearmint tea, and low-volume meditation sleep guide, I could walk away with 40K. 3 days of consistently getting almost 8 hours of sleep feels like 3M to me. Story 6. I'm a former meth user, and my record is like 50 hours awake, and it sucked. I can't begin to explain how much more extreme hours 42 to 48 are compared to hours 1 to 42 can be. You are not supposed to be awake more than 18 hours, honestly. 24 is doable for most, but it sucks, and 48 is seriously unhealthy and awful and miserable. So I'll take 24 hours and 10K LOL. Story 7. I'd fail this instantly. I can't stay awake a full 24 hours. I'll end up getting under half an hour of sleep at least if I try to do this. No money for me. Story 8. So first 2 days, use no stimulants, apples, water, and a lot of things to do. Keep the room cold after 48 hours if I am struggling really hard. That is when I would start the meth. I could probably do another 3 to 4 days. I once stayed awake for 48 hours doing post-production on a TV show finale that was shot one day and went to air the next night. I went straight from the edit suite to the viewing party, then the wrap party. At 4 a.m. I realized I was in a pub alone, crying into a beer. I went back to my hotel room and slept until midday, then got on my flight home. It was good training for this. Story 9. I'm bipolar type 1 with psychotic features, so I'd just stop taking my meds. It's crazy how long I can go without sleep. This would also be very dangerous. Story 10. You're more than likely to die after about 4 to 5 days if the exhaustion doesn't put you in a coma first. The paranoia and hallucinations will probably see you run in front of a bus. Story 11. A day max. People who say 3 days are crazy and has probably never tried. I was awake for 36 hours once after a good night's rest and caffeine during the hours, and it was dreadful. I got a feeling that was getting punched in the brain, and that's when I realized I need to actually sleep. I can imagine anything over actual 30 hours is very hard without drugs. This is coming from someone who has pulled 24 hours plenty of times both during my younger years and now. Story 12. 3 days is a bit extreme and more likely unhealthy, and I've done many 48s in my life, so I'd just take my 20K with some coffee and some reading ambient music. Story 13. I oddly had exactly this scenario happen to me, but with a diff pay rate. I ended at 52 hours and 3. For I was hallucinating shadows toward the end of it. I am pretty much certain I could not go longer than that. I hit a wall and just shut down. Story 14. When I was a lot younger, back in the 1980s, I used to sleep 6 nights a week with Saturday nights being part of the weekend-long DD games we had. Yes, nerd, etc. But I'm getting to a point. Me and my gaming group in Nottingham saw that the world record for the longest DD session was 100 hours, and we reckon we could beat it. The local community center manager said we could use a room there and had organized the record details if we did a practice run. We did 120 hours without sleep, which was insane, but we knew we could beat the record. I slept for 18 hours afterwards, was pretty useless for the next 6 hours, and slept again. The community center manager then died in a freak swimming accident, and we lost the will to make a run at the record. TLDR, I'll have 50 grand, please. Story 15. I did this whilst at uni for free as an experiment. We got through 3 nights, and by the afternoon of the 4th day it felt like I was drunk, couldn't get my key in the door, and we were micro-napping that entire last day. By the way, I lasted the longest of the 4 of us who started. I guarantee I wouldn't have lasted another night. So 30-40 grand is the most a normal person can do, maybe a day or so more if you've trained. Story 16 with the power of Adderall, I accidentally stayed awake for about 40 hours with no tiredness. I decided to go to bed in the end. So I'd say with drugs plus coffee plus stimulating activity 3 days or more is certainly possible. Story 17, when I was in high school, Fallout 4 came out, and I would stay up for about 2 to 3 days Friday morning through to Sunday afternoon evening, which I guess is about 55 to 60 hours straight every weekend for about 2 months, and play it for every moment excluding when I'd go out to get energy drinks. Mother Revive was my drink of choice. I don't know how I did it. I doubt I have it in me to do that now, but I know I can clock 36 hours, so I think if I absolutely push it, I could do 48 hours and walk out with 20k. Unfortunately, Mother no longer makes the Revive flavor, at least not here in Australia, so my drink of choice is a toss-up between Monster Mango Loco or Blue V. I'd also be relying on Vivance a fair bit. Story 18, I've done 2 to 3 day stretches before. I could likely do that again. Once in my life I stayed awake for 5 days, no drug abuse or extenuating circumstances, just insomnia and school. I'd say realistically I could shoot for 30k, but I'd be happy with 10k. Story 19, I try to take the 30k. Anything above is madness and can make you die. Not enough money. If it would double for every day 10, 20, 40, 60 billion, 120,240,480, it's a different story. Story 20, I'd say 40k. Prep by getting into a weird sleeping pattern beforehand. Keep meals light and cocaine plenty for the final 48 hours. 48 hours on blow is quite easy. Story 21, 10k is easy. 20k is extremely difficult, but possible. 30k is impossible for most people. Most I've ever done is 38 hours pushing for deadlines. I could maybe get it to 48 with the promise of 10k. Could always be strategic with it and go a bunch of adrenaline activities in the final sprint. Story 22, no one's asking the real question here. Is there a limit on the amount of cocaine I can use? Because if not, things are about to get real weird, and I'm about to be real rich. Story 23, I've done 70 hours awake a few times in my life, and I'd agree with many here that 30k is far from worth it. 20k easy, if I can pick anything I want to do during the time. Story 24, no prep. I'd pull a single all-nighter, take my 10k and go to sleep. That amount of money is not even close to worth it, given that there are recorded instances of people dying within 72 hours of not sleeping. Story 25, I'd do a day. That's an easy 10k. I don't think I'd make it 2 days, and I've never done it. I don't think I want to find out what would happen if I tried it. Story 26, I could do 4 to 5 days with absolutely no sleep before it becomes a health crisis. A week with 10 hours scattered. I don't think there's that much variance between people if your willpower can hold that long. After 4 days, your brain and body just kind of shut down unless you stay engaged all the time or something is seriously wrong. Story 27, for real, I'd take the 10k and do 24 hours, super skate, easy. It's something I do sometimes anyway, so this question is more like, hey, would you like a free 10k? Story 28, do I get the money each day or cumulatively at the end, because I can do 1 day on my own easy and often do, and then 10k can buy plenty of stimulants. Story 29, I think I'd do 2 and walk away with 20, stand, walk, hike, etc., be miserable with coffee and the like. 20k is a lot, but there's no way to make life-changing money on this challenge, so take a decent jackpot and move on would be my goal. 20k is a year of rent in a small apartment in my area, or a down payment for a small place in a cheaper area if I wanted to set it aside. Nothing to sneeze at, definitely, but I feel you'd hit diminishing returns on what this money will do milestones, while having exponentially shittier times as you stay awake longer. Story 30, I can realistically make about 30 to 50k. At the age I'm at now, after about 36 hours, I'm going to need some serious pick-me-ups and physical activities to keep me going and awake. But yes, 3 to 5 days is doable. I would have been able to do it easy without assistance when I was a teen, early 20s, because I did it. Story 31, I've done a day, a night and a day a few times for work disasters, 20k, and I'm good. Going without sleep is bad for you. Not worth it going longer. If I had time to prepare, and unlimited means to prepare, I'd live in a cave for a month or two. A guy named Sifri did studies on circadian rhythms. People can often depart from 24-hour patterns and adapt to 48-hour patterns if given enough time. Story 32, would probably make 1 full day. Maybe could reach the second if I could find surging that can really stick my attention and keep me awake, but doubt it. 10k would already be nice. More than that, honestly not worth it if I think about the downside. Story 33, I've pulled an all-nighter in high school before. It's not that bad. I felt oddly awake the next day despite not sleeping. That's 10k right there. It'd be rather simple to load up on caffeine and video games for a second all-nighter. As long as you keep your brain active, you won't fall asleep. You can pay someone on Fiverr a couple of bucks to keep talking to you, or to game with you to keep you awake. Story 30, 4. I've done 3 nights without sleep for free many times. Used to drive plow truck for a municipality, while a salaried employee. 40K would be realistic for me. Story 35. I doing 24 hours and happily walking with 10K. ID get a suite at a ball game and invite all my friends. I know I can't do 48, so not even gonna try. Story 36. I have ADHD, so it's about maximizing the things that keep my brain going. I lean into the stimulation, boot up Civilization and Crusader Kings on different devices, and alternate periodically, occasionally switch to Fortnite, constant stimulation to take one more turn, chug monsters. Self-explanatory. Join an active group chat with all notifications active. I have to check every notification or my paranoia goes crazy. Pay a friend to take the night shifts and sleep during the day. They spend the night walking around the house with heavy footfalls and opening and closing doors. This activates my childhood trauma PTSD and makes it so I will never feel sleepy. I reckon I can make it close to a week. Story 37. Meth isn't popular in my country, but cocaine sure as it is. Maybe I'll try one day sober, and then bump the out of an 8-ball and see where that takes me, but 30 grand is more than enough. Story 38. I had issues with sleeping as a teen, and once went 7 days without sleep. The hallucinations were horrifying. I remember begging my parents to take me to the hospital. Days felt like years. Nights were the worst. I personally wouldn't go over 3 days for anything less than 100,000 K a day. Mind you, I didn't have a choice because my body wouldn't let me sleep. Still, I would never relive that time frame of my life. I regularly went 2 to 5 days without sleep for years. Story 39. Well, first of all, I set the challenge start to a week from now to fix my sleep schedule as best I can and get as much rest as I can. Then I stock up on energy drinks and sugar-filled sweets. Then I set all my electronics to blue light mode, which actively has an annoying effect of keeping your mind awake, unlike red light mode. Last but not least, I remove my bed and any comfortable seating from my apartment. That way, my body has no chance of finding a comfortable spot to sleep. I'd say I could go 3 to 4 days before passing out. Story 40. I could probably do 1 or 2 full days to bring in 20,000. I ended up staying awake for about 24 hours when my mom had oral surgery due to her bleeding not stopping until morning when the dentist reopened. That was with no real planning. If I can get the right food and energy drinks coffee, I think I can reasonably get 2 full days. Story 41. I did 3 days when I was 13 without trouble. These days I could do 48h before struggling. I wouldn't push past 3 days no matter what because of the health risks. Story 42. Great question. I suggest to watch a video about the study done on a few persons who were given all the facilities including eating, entertainment, etc., but were not allowed to sleep. Story 43. As the local narcoleptic, I can only manage 1 day, and only if I'm in fight or flight the entire time, and even in the microsleeps will probably disqualify me. LMAO. Story 44. Staying awake is extremely dangerous. I'd do it for a couple of days and cash out, then take a long nap. My record is 4 days with 3 sick children to take care of. I was a zombie by the end of it. Story 45. I've been awake for 7 days after surgery before due to breathing issues. It sucked. In this instance though, I would just play video games and watch YouTube. I think I could do it again for 70K. Story 46. Be like that guy who drank a whole 711 big gulp full of 5-hour energy. Story 47. I could probably do 3. I'd need my PC, a TV, and if possible a treadmill, but could do without it. PC. I'd play Marvel Rivals, it always wakes me up, and then I'd watch TV on the treadmill. Only issue would be fighting the boredom. My GF would be lucky to make it past 12 hours. Story 48. I'd be okay with 30K. Maybe I'd try to push it a bit further to 40K. 50K tops. If I wanted to kill myself, there are more peaceful ways to do so, and I'd rather get brain damage from alcohol. Story 49. A radio personality did this in the 50s or something and stayed awake for a whole week. It completely his brain, and he was never the same. So if you were to do it, 3 days is probably max. Story 50. I went close to 3 days without sleep in college once, and I needed PEDs for that. I don't think I could stay up for 24 hours at this point no matter how I prepared. I feel like I want to nap every 4 or 5 hours I've been awake. LOL. Story 51. I don't even play anymore, but Minecraft can keep me awake indefinitely. Just Minecraft for 3 days, collect my 30K, then check myself into the hospital probably. Haha.